Ever get the feeling you're being judged unfairly? Like, like whispers and rumors are kind of building a wall around you. That's what we're diving deep into today.
Oh, okay.
The era of witch hunts in colonial Massachusetts. And to help us navigate this, well, frankly, chilling chapter of history, we have our expert.
A time that continues to fascinate us, doesn't it? The story of half-hanged Mary.
Yeah.
This woman who defied the odds and
Yeah.
actually survived her own execution.
Wow.
It reveals how potent fear and prejudice can be, and that craving for a scapegoat.
It's like something out of a Gothic novel.
Yeah.
But as we'll see, the reality for Mary Webster and countless others accused of witchcraft was way more harrowing than any fiction.
Right.
We'll begin our journey in the Massachusetts Bay Colony, a place where life was harsh and unforgiving.
Imagine a world shrouded in darkness for much of the year,
Hmm.
with disease rampant and a single bad harvest could spell disaster.
Oh, wow.
So it's no wonder people sought explanations.
Right.
Clinging to this idea of a cosmic battle between good and evil playing out in their daily lives.
So this intense fear of the unknown
Right.
made them susceptible to superstition.
Exactly. And the authorities didn't help either.
Oh, really?
They actually passed laws criminalizing witchcraft.
No way.
Imagine that, having your very beliefs regulated by the state.
That's wild.
One such law from 1641 declared that any man or woman found to be a witch would be put to death.
Oh, my gosh. Those are serious times.
Oh, yeah.
So how did they even define witchcraft back then?
Yeah.
What was considered evidence?
Well, it could be anything that seemed out of the ordinary.
Okay.
Take the case of Margaret Jones, a midwife who was hanged in Charlestown in 1648
Okay.
for her supposed crimes. Knowing secrets about childbirth,
Uh-huh.
using herbs for healing,
Right.
and get this, causing people to fall ill.
Wait.
Basically being skilled at her job.
So a woman who was knowledgeable and independent was automatically suspicious.
You got it.
Okay.
Margaret's case is a chilling example of how easily accusations could escalate. It set a dangerous precedent that echoed for decades to come.
So it seems like those in power were quick to label anyone who challenged the norm as a threat.
Yeah,
But did these accusations always come from genuine fear, or was there something else at play?
that's the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Let's fast forward to 1656 and look at the case of Mary Parsons,
Okay.
which sheds light on another dark side of this whole witch hunt phenomenon.
Okay. I'm all ears. What made Mary Parsons a target?
Well, she and her husband were relatively well-off newcomers to their community.
Okay.
And you know how it is, success can breed envy, especially when resources are scarce?
Right.
A neighbor, Sarah Bridgman, accused Mary of causing her infant son's death, even though the child had been sickly from birth.
Oh, so a personal grudge disguised as a witch hunt.
Exactly. Bridgman claimed she knew her child was doomed because this great blow struck her door,
Okay.
which she interpreted as a sign of Mary's evil influence.
Uh-huh.
People even testified against Mary,
Really?
citing knotted yarn and sick cows as proof of her witchcraft.
Knotted yarn and sick cows. Talk about grasping at straws.
Thankfully, the court saw through the charade, ruling in Mary Parsons' favor and ordering Bridgman to apologize publicly or pay court fees.
So justice was served.
Not quite.
Oh.
Bridgman refused to apologize,
Really?
choosing to pay instead, all because of her pride and unwillingness to admit she was wrong. Imagine that, clinging to a lie even when faced with the truth.
Wow. That's unbelievable. But it also kind of shows the power of belief. Even if disproven accusations like these could stain a person's reputation for years.
For sure. It reminds us that while accusations of witchcraft might have started from genuine fear, they could easily be manipulated to target those who didn't fit in or dared to challenge the status quo.
Right. Which brings us to our main character, Mary Webster, the woman who would become known as Half-Hanged Mary.
Yeah.
Born in England in 1624, she eventually settled in Hadley, Massachusetts. But unlike the Parsons, Mary faced a different set of challenges.
Yeah, she was an outsider, impoverished, and by many accounts had a rather sharp tongue. Imagine a woman who didn't shy away from speaking her mind in a society that prized female submissiveness.
I can already see how that might not have gone over well.
Right.
So did those initial whispers of witchcraft stem from her personality?
It's hard to know for sure,
Okay.
but it's certainly possible.
Mm.
The rumors started subtly, with tales of cattle inexplicably refusing to pass by her house.
Sounds like classic small-town gossip.
Right.
But things took a turn for the worse, didn't they?
Unfortunately, yes, Mary became the victim of what they called witch disturbances.
Okay.
And these weren't just mean whispers.
Oh, no.
People actually believed they had the right to physically attack suspected witches to stop their evil.
Wait, They were assaulting her in her own home.
It's a chilling testament to the power of belief. People
Mhm.
were so terrified of witchcraft that they resorted to violence, justifying it as a form of self-defense.
That makes you wonder if Mary was really doing anything wrong, or if she just became a scapegoat for a community wrestling with its own anxieties and fears.
It really does.
Yeah. So how do we separate fact from fiction? Is there any way to understand what really happened to Mary Webster?
It's like piecing together a puzzle with missing pieces.
Right.
But there are some fascinating accounts that shed light on the escalating accusations against her.
Okay.
One of the most bizarre stories involves a hen, a chimney, and a boiling pot of water.
Okay, now you've got my attention.
Okay, so picture this.
Okay.
A hen somehow tumbles down a chimney
Oh my goodness.
and lands right into a pot of boiling water.
Oh no.
Now, on its own, that's a rather unfortunate incident for the hen,
Yeah.
but then
Wait, hold on. I have a feeling this is where things get interesting. What happened next?
they discovered that Mary had a burn on her body mirroring the one suffered by the scalded hen.
Okay.
In the minds of her accusers, this was irrefutable proof.
Proof of what? That she liked fried chicken. I'm
Well,
sorry, I can't help but find that a little absurd.
It might seem ridiculous to us now,
Yeah.
but back then, people genuinely believed in shapeshifting.
Right.
They saw this burn as evidence that Mary had transformed into the hen to spy on her neighbors.
Wow. So a simple incident like that, fueled by fear and suspicion, could be twisted into something so sinister. But surely not everyone believed these outlandish tales, did they?
You'd think so, right?
Yeah.
But the accusations against Mary just kept escalating,
Oh, wow.
eventually leading to her arrest and trial for witchcraft in 1683.
So at 60 years old, she's taken from her home and thrown into a Boston jail. That's terrifying.
Absolutely. Imagine the darkness and filth of that jail.
Yeah.
The uncertainty of her fate. It's a stark reminder of how quickly a person's life could be upended by unfounded accusations and a justice system driven by fear and prejudice.
And yet, despite all of this, Mary stood her ground. At her trial, she pleaded not guilty, putting her faith in a system that had already failed so many others.
Her courage is remarkable. She refused to be intimidated even when facing immense pressure to confess. And you know what? The jury actually found her not guilty.
Wait, really? So reason prevailed.
Yeah.
There's a glimmer of hope in this dark story.
It is. Despite the social pressure and the deeply ingrained beliefs about witchcraft, the court in Boston at least acknowledged the lack of evidence against her.
You'd think that would be the end of it. A woman is declared innocent by a court of law.
Yeah.
But sadly, we know that's not how this story ends.
You're right, Mary's acquittal didn't sit well with everyone,
Right.
especially those who had been most vocal in accusing her.
Yeah.
Among them was Philip Smith, a local judge and deacon who remained utterly convinced of her guilt.
So even after a trial, even after being declared innocent, she still couldn't escape the cloud of suspicion.
Not really. You see, Smith, already a staunch believer in witchcraft, became seriously ill shortly after Mary's acquittal. And of course, in a community primed to see the devil behind every misfortune.
They saw it as Mary's revenge, like she had cursed him for daring to accuse her.
Exactly. Smith's illness with its delirium and fits was seen as a direct attack by Mary Webster. The rumor spread like wildfire.
It's amazing and a little terrifying how easily people can connect unrelated events to fit a narrative they already believe in.
Yeah, and to make matters worse, this is where Cotton Mather enters the picture.
Right.
Remember him?
Oh, yeah.
The influential Puritan minister
Yes.
with a flair for the dramatic.
Yeah.
And an unshakable belief in the pervasiveness of witchcraft.
Cotton Mather. He could spin a yarn with the best of them, but wasn't he known for embellishing the truth to fit his own agenda?
Exactly. And that's precisely what he did with Mary Webster's story.
Hmm.
Even though he likely never met either Mary or Philip Smith, he wrote extensively about them,
Wow.
portraying Smith as a saintly figure tormented by Mary's evil magic.
So Mather was essentially fanning the flames of hysteria with his biased accounts.
Exactly. He took a few documented facts about Smith's illness. The man was clearly unwell and twisted them to fit his narrative of a righteous man battling demonic forces.
And what about Mary? How did he portray her in his writings?
As a vengeful witch, of course,
Right.
using her dark powers to strike down those who dared oppose her. He even described how medicines mysteriously emptied and a fire spontaneously erupted under Smith's bed. All classic signs of demonic assault.
But isn't it interesting that these strange events only seem to happen when those around Smith were already convinced of Mary's guilt?
It really highlights the power of suggestion and confirmation bias.
Yeah.
They were seeing what they expected to see, even if it meant twisting reality to fit their preconceived notions.
So how did the community react to all of this?
Hmm.
Surely some people must have questioned the validity of these claims.
Sadly, many didn't.
Hmm.
Mather's writing, with its vivid imagery and air of authority, played a significant role in shaping public opinion.
Right.
He even recounted how groups of young men, out of their wits at Smith's suffering, decided to take matters into their own hands.
What does that even mean? What did they do?
They went to Mary Webster's home and repeatedly assaulted her.
Oh my goodness.
They genuinely believed they were doing God's work by punishing the witch who was tormenting their beloved deacon.
That's chilling. They found comfort in tormenting an innocent woman, all because they believed she was the source of their woes.
It really highlights a key aspect of witch hunts throughout history: the need for a scapegoat. When faced with inexplicable hardships, it's easier to blame an individual, especially one who is already marginalized, than to confront complex societal issues or acknowledge the randomness of life.
So Philip Smith eventually succumbs to his illness, and that's when things truly spiral out of control.
Exactly. Fueled by grief, anger, and years of simmering suspicion, a mob of men dragged Mary from her home with the intention of ending her life.
This is where the story takes that infamous turn, isn't it? The moment Mary Webster becomes half-hanged Mary.
It is. They hanged her from a tree, a brutal extrajudicial execution for a crime she was already acquitted of. And to add insult to injury, they left her body hanging there in the snow, believing they'd finally rid themselves of the witch who had plagued them for so long.
It's a horrifying image. A 61-year-old woman falsely accused, publicly humiliated, and then murdered by her own community. It's almost too much to bear.
It's a stark reminder of the devastating power of mob mentality.
Yeah.
When fear and prejudice take hold, individuals can lose all sense of reason and compassion, capable of unspeakable cruelty in the name of righteousness.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the twist that makes Mary Webster's story truly legendary.
She survived, didn't she? That's where she gets the name Half-Hanged Mary.
Exactly. Somehow she survived the hanging, the exposure, the utter brutality of her neighbors, and she lived for another 11 years.
11 years. That's incredible. It's as if fate itself refused to let her story be silenced.
Her survival adds another layer of meaning to her story.
Wait.
It's a powerful symbol of defiance against injustice, a refusal to be broken even in the face of unimaginable cruelty. It makes you wonder what went through her mind as she regained consciousness. What did she think of her neighbors, of the community that had tried to erase her?
It's a question that haunts me. But we can't talk about Mary Webster without acknowledging the shadow of Salem looming just a few years later.
Yeah, it's like Mary's story was a precursor to the horrors that would happen in Salem.
Right.
The same things were there: religious fervor,
Yeah.
fear of the unknown,
Right.
and that willingness to scapegoat individuals for society's anxieties.
It's a chilling parallel for sure. And we can't forget the role that our friend Cotton Mather played in both events.
Right.
His dramatic accounts, often lacking factual basis,
Yeah.
helped to fan the flames of hysteria.
It's wild how one person's writing can have such a big impact, shaping public perception and even influencing events.
And what's even more disturbing is that even after the Salem trials, after seeing the devastating consequences of this mass delusion,
Right.
Mather continued to advocate for witch hunts.
He learned nothing from that tragedy. You'd think seeing innocent people hanged would have given him pause.
It seems that for some, the need to maintain control to uphold their worldview was stronger than any sense of remorse or empathy.
Yeah. It shows how even intelligent people can be blinded by fanaticism.
So if we're connecting Mary Webster's story and Salem, are we saying that this tendency to scapegoat and demonize anyone different, anyone who challenges the status quo, is a recurring theme throughout history?
Absolutely. It's a pattern that we see over and over.
Yeah.
Even a century after Mary's ordeal, a Boston Globe article about her case still focused on her supposedly unpleasant personality and her use of herbs.
So basically, they were still using the same stereotypes that led to her persecution in the first place.
Yeah, it's incredible, isn't it?
It's like they couldn't escape that image of her as a witch, even after all those years.
It shows just how deep these biases run.
Yeah.
They can resurface even when we think we've moved past those mistakes.
The cautionary tale for sure.
Right.
It reminds us to be wary of prejudice and misinformation.
Exactly. Mary's story shows us how important critical thinking is.
Right.
Questioning the narratives we're given and challenging those who spread fear and division.
Right. Because the methods used to discredit and demonize people haven't really changed, have they?
Mm,
We still see rumors spread like wildfire,
yeah,
amplified by those in power.
it's true. And with social media, these harmful narratives can spread even faster and wider, reaching a global audience in an instant.
So we're not that different from the world of half-hanged Mary after all.
Yeah.
That potential for mass hysteria, for scapegoating, for injustice, it's still here today.
That's why it's so important to be informed,
Yes.
to be critical of the information we consume,
Right.
and to have the courage to speak out against injustice wherever we see it.
Mary's story is a powerful reminder that we all have a responsibility to challenge these harmful narratives, to stand up for those being targeted even when it's tough.
And remember, even small acts of resistance can make a difference.
Yeah.
Speaking out against prejudice, fact-checking information before you share it,
Right.
supporting organizations that fight for social justice, these are all ways we can break the cycle.
Because Mary's story isn't just about the past, is it? It's about the present and the future. It's a call to action,
Right.
a reminder that the fight for justice continues and we all have a part to play.
By learning from the mistakes of the past, by confronting our own biases,
Yes.
and by having the courage to speak truth to power, we can create a more just and equitable world.
Right.
A world where stories like Mary's aren't warnings, but reminders of the resilience of the human spirit and the power of hope, even when things are dark.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the chilling and thought-provoking story of Half-Hanged Mary. It's a story that challenges us to face uncomfortable truths about ourselves and our society. But ultimately, it's a story that offers hope. Hope that by learning from the past, we can build a better future. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay engaged.